It's a chat show. It's Saturday morning. What do we care? Let's chat. Who's our next guest? Shall we chat? I know who our next guest is. And honestly, Karin, we are thrilled. I mean, talk about going back to the sort of old school, original 60s, 70s. I mean, the 70s, I was, veggie back in the 70s. Well, actually, 1980, so pretty much my base. But even then, 1980, the only cookbooks around at those times, there was only one or two sort of, plant-based cookbooks. And the most famous, of course, by a very, very famous author who has, I believe, produced at least 70 plant-based cookbooks and is now fully vegan, got a number of vegan cookbooks out and about, but overall is a real, absolutely fascinating character, but quite legendary too. So not only have we had this iconic Angie Bess from the 60s and 70s, but we're now joined by the also equally iconic Rose Elliot.
We are. Good morning, Rose. Let's just bring up. Lovely to see you, Rose. Thank you for joining us. I've got to say, Rose Elliot, MBE, you're a patron of lots of brilliant charities, including our great friends Vegetarian for Life, V for Life. You are their patron. You and I can't remember when we first met. Was it when we filmed in London? Do you remember?
I was trying to remember when we did meet. I think it may have been. It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was about 20 years ago. I know. And you and I, we just hit it off. I thought, oh my God, Rose Elliot. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. She's such an icon. And then we were at the Vegetarian Society presenting awards to the winners. So I've got a lovely photo of you and I should have put it on our chat. And but yeah, sort of back in the day. But it's such a pleasure. And I think when we spoke earlier, Rose, I did say to you, and I know this is probably a bit naughty, Tim, but I kept the impression from a lot of people that they're vegan now, they're in their 20s, and they kind of feel that they invented it, and it really gets on my nerves because I know we owe so much to the inspirations back in the day, and you've written an incredible amount. You were passionate, you still are, giving demonstrations, way back in the day. Did people think then, oh, Rose Elliot, she's quite, I don't know, quite different. She's quite quirky, or
yes, I think I've always been quirky. They've always
you and I both. But did they kind of think more, wow, Rose Elliot, she's ahead of her time?
I think it was a mixture. I think some people thought that, and some people thought, I was weird. I'm used to that though. It started when I was at school because my sister and I were the only vegetarians in the school, at primary school. And we had to sit at a special table and they couldn't make food for us. We had to have our sandwiches. And, I'm really quite used to being weird. I didn't like it then, but I actually quite like it now. I enjoy it.
Wouldn't it be boring to be like other people, Rose?
Absolutely. But I'm so keen. Other people have become vegetarian, and now so many are going vegan. So that's I like them to join me in that.
Oh, Rose, that's wonderful. Let's take you back. I mean, your first book was called Simply Delicious.
That's correct. Yeah.
What inspired you? It was a bestseller, an unexpected bestseller when you were 20.
Yes.
That was at a time where I don't even know if you had labelling on food then for what was the ingredients.
I don't think you did. I mean, it was very basic. You couldn't really get any sort of ready-made vegetarian food or anything like that. And I mean, it was very straightforward, natural cooking. I did like vegetables, lentils, nuts, and things like that. So it simply didn't really need labelling in that way. But it started really, as I say, I was vegetarian, and at school no one knew what that was. Then I started cooking in the retreat centre, which my family ran. It was a spiritual retreat centre where people came to learn meditation. And we gave them vegetarian food because all my family had become vegetarian by then. We were growing, I was growing up in a vegetarian family, and the whole ethos of the centre where I was cooking was, no cruelty to animals and, being humane and all that. And obviously vegetarianism fitted in. Most of the people I cooked for had never eaten vegetarian food before in their lives. So it was quite a challenge to produce food that they would enjoy. And really, out of that, Simply Delicious, my first book was born, which I wrote when I was 19, I think, when I started writing that. And then it was just a huge surprise when it took off, and it was reviewed all over the place. The Times, Woman's Hour, Radio 4, it was everywhere. And I sent out 4 copies for review, very timidly, including to the local paper too, and they all gave the fantastic reviews, and my career sort of started then.
I think that's wonderful, Rose. And I think, if we think now, we might have pizza for dinner, we might have pasta, we might have, I don't know, Indian food or Chinese food. But, are we talking 40 years ago, 50 years ago? Is it around that time?
God, I suppose it came out in 1967, Simply Delicious. And that was a time when I was really, building up my career. I wasn't even aware I was starting a career at that point. I was just cooking for the retreat centre, which my parents ran. The cook left suddenly, no one to cook for the people who came. So, and I wanted to leave school. So I said, oh, well, I'll do the cooking. I think they were crazy to let me, really. I wouldn't have let my daughters. I think I'd have said, no, you must go on and do your A-levels and all the rest of it. But I think they were just so relieved to have someone who would do it. But it really started my career. It was extraordinary.
So what were people typically eating around that time? And was your creations, your food, so shockingly different?
Oh, gosh, I've got Simply Delicious here, so maybe I'll have to refresh my memory. We had nut roast then. There was lentils. I used lentil croquettes. What else have I got in here? I did use quite a bit of cheese in those days because there weren't other things to replace it, really. So it was definitely vegetarian rather than vegan, although obviously some of the recipes were vegan. I didn't focus on that in those days. I just wanted to get people off their meat and fish and onto, vegetarian food. I've got a vegetable curry here. That's quite trendy. Green pea cutlets, cheese and egg pie, cashew nut fritters, macaroni or spaghetti with tomato sauce. Even pasta in those days was quite unusual. People weren't eating a lot of pasta, and so it goes on.
I love that. Rose, show me your book, and then I'm going to show you my book that I've got here.
How can I show you? I'll put it like that.
That's it. Oh.
You've got it too. Oh, it's catching the light. Oh, now that one. Yes, that's fast forward a few years for that one.
I mean, look at how many. How do you get the inspiration? I just chuck stuff in a saucepan and hope.
I do that a bit, but I don't know. I just get ideas. I've got this one. Look, this is my latest one. Can I show you this one?
Yeah.
Vegan one. Whoops. Can you see it? There we are. I don't know. I think I dream about recipes and dishes. And I don't like making the same thing twice. So there's lots of scope for new recipes.
I think that's wonderful. Rose, we've got so much to talk about. 70 cookbooks. I mean, at times I've said, oh, you're the Delia Smith of vegetarian and vegan cookery, but I feel that's doing you a bit of a disservice, really.
Oh.
You're so fabulous in your own right, but I suppose everybody knows the name Delia Smith. Is that what you have focused on throughout the years? I wonder if we've got time to touch base on the astrology side of your career as well. But 70 recipe books, how do you get the inspiration and the ideas?
I can't cook the same thing twice, honestly. I just make things the whole time. It's quite a discipline for me when I'm actually writing a cookery book to test the recipes. I get the idea, I make them, scribble down what I've done, and then of course I have to test them to make sure they all work. One of the things people do say about my recipes is that they always work. I hope that's true. It's nice things here, but I do work hard to make that, that true.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm inspired by colour. I'm inspired by flavour, texture. And sometimes I create things for a specific reason. Like, for instance, I've done a slimming book for people who are keen on obviously losing weight. I've done things specifically for children, things for pregnant mothers. I've tried to cater for everybody. So no one can say I can't do the vegetarian or vegan diet because I'm anything. They just can do it. There's something for everybody there.
That's wonderful. Rose, what are you focusing on now then, the next stage? Will there be more cookery books? What's the plan?
Well, I can't get away from cookery, actually. I was going to have quite a pause because the last book I did was this big book and it was quite tiring and so on. But I've actually started getting ideas for another vegan cookbook. As we speak, ideas are floating around my head and I'm writing them down. Whether it will get published, I don't know. My agent has now got the idea and she's finding a publisher. So it's all about really fast vegan food.
Yeah.
Simple, fast, not many ingredients. So everybody can do it.
Rose, do you feel like your journey, you're passionate about food and healthy living? Are you equally as passionate about the animal side of things?
I do it because I'm passionate about the animal side of things. I started our whole family on the vegetarian way of life when I was about 5, and my parents were still eating a little fish. They've gone mainly vegetarian, actually, but they had fish sometimes and chicken sometimes, actually. And one evening, my mother was preparing fish for supper, and she was cutting the heads off herrings. And I was so shocked. I hadn't realised that what I must have eaten before was a fish. Anyway, I was even more worried because I said, has that been killed especially for me to eat, Mummy? And she was very honest with me and she said, yes, it has. And I said, well, I'm not eating it. I'm not eating it. I won't eat it. And they went on eating fish themselves for a little while. But I made such a fuss about it every time that she was having it to eat. It wasn't that often. They didn't have it that often that they stopped. And I never ate the fish that night. And I never ate it again. And then the whole family became vegetarian.
I think, you hear that quite a lot, that it's, the kids actually help convert their parents and the kids realise what it is. They're not conditioned in the way that an adult is to this is just what we eat. But yes, I'm wondering, what did anyone inspire you? Or you made the connection as a young girl. That's an animal. I don't want to have the animal. And you just knew this for yourself, didn't you?
I did, but I think my parents were definitely sympathetic towards that. They were very spiritual parents, and they were running a retreat centre for people to learn to meditate and learn about spirituality. So, they were quite receptive. I think they hadn't really completely thought through the meat thing. As I say, they were only having flesh occasionally, and it was fish, I think. They just got right down to fish, and it happened to be that night. It wasn't a very common occurrence. So I had very fertile soil to sow my seeds on, as it were, and it just went from there. I do remember also trying to be vegan when I was about 10 or 11. And I got some vegan leaflets from the Vegetarian Society, actually, or maybe the Vegan Society. And I remember one occasion when I got my younger sister, she's 2 years younger than me, and we were trying to make soya milk from soya beans. Can you imagine? You couldn't buy soya milk in those days. And we did manage it. And we had every saucepan in the kitchen was dirty. Everything was piled sky high, all the bowls. My little sister was plodding on with the washing up. So it was all happening very early in my life, really.
Oh, Rose, back in the day, I mean, we're very lucky to have this man that for once has been quite quiet, Mr. Big, organising the most fabulous, biggest vegan festivals in Europe. But back in the day, were there any such things? Did anyone put on events or festivals to celebrate, this inspirational way of living?
I don't remember any. If they did, I wasn't invited. I don't know about.
You
No,
would have
only
been a great
joking.
woman.
It was.
Yeah.
What did you say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, so who has inspired you over the years?
Cookery-wise, I'm trying to really. I've sort of gone a bit along my own track in many ways. I've done demonstrations for the Vegetarian Society, so I suppose that society inspired me as well. Oh, and I've done things for the Guardian. My husband just said Guardian at me. I was a columnist for the Guardian for a while for vegetarian, not vegan. I've been inspired mainly by reading health things and also just ideas for recipes have just come into my head. You know, I see an ingredient and I think, oh yes, I must try such and such, and I do, and then people either like it or they don't like it. But since I've become quite well known for writing my cookery books, there's usually been a book that a publisher has wanted me to write. So I sort of have gone from one book to another and started just inventing things, really.
That's amazing. Rose, I mean, I know you were awarded your MBE. I don't suppose it's anywhere and you can show us?
Yeah, it happens to be here on my, can I hold it up?
There you go. And that's for all your incredible work throughout for vegetarianism and for veganism over the years.
Yes, it was listed as for services to vegetarian cookery.
That's amazing.
And the Queen said to me, I mustn't make fun of her. She was lovely. She said to me, oh, vegetarian cookery, was it? And I said, yes, Mom, you can do very delicious food with vegetarian food ingredients. Oh, can you? She said. And then she shook my hand very firmly, which is what she does. She shakes your hand firmly and slightly pushes you away, so you know it's time to stop chatting.
Oh.
It was a lovely event. I was so honoured, really, to do that. It was, and honoured for vegetarianism itself. You know, it's lovely to get recognised as a way of eating and a way of life, really.
Rose, that's wonderful. I want to talk to you all day, like all of our guests. Just one thing in a nutshell. What would you say to inspire our viewer, or not to inspire, maybe to sort of tell them that, you know, the message was being spread even back in the day? You know, what would you say?
I think deep down, many people have always felt a sense of compassion towards animals. And I just think if people can tune into that inner feeling of love towards animals, which most people have got, although they don't always understand how to express it, then carry that forward into your life by not eating them and hopefully not taking their products, hopefully going vegan.
Rose, that's amazing. I hope you might join us again.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. I would love to. I've accepted already.
You're an inspiration. Thank you, Rose. Really appreciate your support. Thank you.
So lovely. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, I could talk all day to our fantastic guests. I feel very, very lucky. I was going to show her my book, Eva Bat, as well, but I didn't get a chance. So I think this book is from the 50s. I'm not sure, but wonderful Rose Elliot, patron to V for Life, who are very good friends of VegFest, an inspiration, over 70 cookbooks, and spreading the word when really, before social media, before anybody else was, around sort of spreading the word. She didn't know anybody else, but she was just passionate and knew it was her calling. So thank you, Rose. What a lovely lady.